A note. Following advice from work-life imbalance may lead to action being taken by HR, your family, the authorities, or higher powers. Welcome to Work-Life Imbalance, an advice show focusing on workplace and lifestyle issues. Any resemblance to actual advice, living or dead, or actual wisdom is purely coincidental. I'm your monstrous manager, Frank Eastman.
And I'm your lovable office companion, Derek Lewis.
Today we'll be talking about Thermostat Wars in the deep dive before we address some audience questions and issues from the internet. But first, want to do the daily stand-up?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, so for the daily stand-up, I have a counter to one of our earlier episodes that we had done, where we discussed the Great British Bake Off.
Okay.
So there's a new cooking show on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it yet or if you've heard of it.
I'll give you a guess.
All right.
Okay. Well, what is the name of it?
Oh, I thought you were gonna guess.
No. Well, I'm going to guess that it's called Nailed It.
That's the one that I'm talking about.
Of course I've seen it, Frank. If it is a baking show and it's on a streaming service, I've seen it.
All the baking for you, huh? All right.
I'm not going to steal your thunder, though. You go ahead.
It was fairly new, and I didn't know if you had already managed to scope that.
Oh, you thought you was going to get the drop on old Derek Lewis, didn't you?
Thought I was going to sneak that one in, but I guess not.
No, sir. You got to wake up a lot earlier than me, which is not very hard, all things considered. But if your first thing to do in the morning was to watch baking shows on Netflix, you might beat me. But other than that, no.
Other than that, yeah. I don't know. This thing is fucking hilarious. It is.
It is.
It is something like a deconstruction of the Great British Bake Off, or just any cooking show. It's like it is of, I would say, approximately the same quality as like a Food Network show.
Right.
But it's specifically not a Food Network show.
Like, very intentionally anti-Food Network show. Like, it's so weird. They put so much effort into making it look like they're being real amateur about it.
Yes.
Like, it's hilarious how slapdash they make it, but you can tell that all of it is, like, very intentional.
The way we sort of put it was, this is a Food Network show constructed entirely by sentient memes from the internet.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, the main girl, woman,
Nicole Byer.
Nicole Byer is, I mean, she's from Girl Talk from MTV, so like
she is a hoot.
I mean, yeah, and she is hilarious, and like her career was started, or at least this part of her career, her like more successful part of her career has been, basically talking about like girl stuff and memes and current events and shit like that. So, I mean, this is, I guess, I'm not going to say this is exactly a logical progression of her career, but definitely somebody that if you're trying to make a hip and trendy cooking show, she was the best choice. Like, some of the shit that is on there is just hilarious.
Oh God, my favorite. Like, I've seen a couple episodes at this point. We're trying to space it out since there's only 6. But the first episode with Sylvia Weinstock.
Oh my God!
Had you been
stealing fucking pans out of the pantry?
Stealing the goddamn pans out of the pantry. I love her so much. I had not been exposed to her before, and she is exactly like if someone took someone's grandmother and then put her on high heat in the dryer for too long so that she kind of shrank
her down a little bit.
So,
Oh man.
like, the oversized glasses, the oversized draping clothes, and she gets bored at one point and just starts wandering around the set and is like, ooh, these are very nice pans. And just picks up a pan. It's like, I'm taking this home.
I mean, who are they to tell her no? And she was like, it's like, yeah, it's no good if you don't have the whole set. So you can assume that somebody was at that time, like, putting the shit in her car. So
Pretty much. And she doesn't need it.
Oh, no.
Because, I mean, she is like the cake decorator to the stars,
Right.
apparently, in New York.
She is the wedding cake designer for, like, the richest of the rich.
Yeah, so she just decided that those were really nice pans and she had to have some. Like, she was a hoot. I love the glasses. It's like watching a real life Edna Mode.
Exactly. That was our exact thought. Is she's the costume lady from The Incredibles. Like, that is our first thought. Oh, and it's just like the whole show is just so charming. And what's the name of the male baker? Jacques Torres.
Jacques Torres.
I mean,
yes.
I thought he was going to be kind of stiff and not very funny, but like, and he kind of was the first episode. Didn't really know what to do with Nicole Byer. But by the second episode, he is just cracking jokes just like she is. Like, it is so charming.
He's got a good personality for this sort of medium. Like, I think he's worked in I've seen him on like other shows and stuff like that. So he definitely has a good sort of stage presence. Especially and including, like, the thick French accent, which I have to assume he has kept cultivated to some extent, because I think he's been in the U.S. for a very long time.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think he has, like, kept it very carefully cultivated. But there was that one really Southern lady.
Oh, yes, the grandmama.
The grandmama. And he said that he was going to explain something at one point, and she was like, well, you're going to have to talk some English. And he looked at her like, the fuck you say?
And then when the two of them were talking over there, everybody else is looking around like, can you understand anything that either of them are saying? Because he's got the French accent, she's got the Southern accent. And they're just babbling back and forth, and everybody else is looking around like, what the hell are these two talking about?
Oh, and they were playing up the like her saying that he was dreamy. Like, they were playing that up so hard. They kept playing like the heart music behind it while she was talking about it. He was like, "Oh, that accent. He could bake my biscuits all day." It's like
It's a really good show. As I said, I've only seen like 2 or 3 episodes of it at this point, and I hope they pick it up and continue doing some of it, because
I think it's getting really good reception. And one of my favorite things about the show, I mean, obviously Nicole Byer is hilarious. And the part in the first episode where they have the button to sabotage the other players with the Nicole Nags button.
Oh, that's great.
And so, she goes around and she starts nagging them. And, like, I can't remember if it's the first or third episode, but she makes this ungodly guttural scream at one point. Like, it is not a noise that a human makes. Like, she sounded like a car alarm. It was so funny. But she gets back to the desk, and Jacques was like, I'm not even going to do the accent. I'm not even going to try. You're very good at that. She was like, oh, I am really annoying. Like, Jessica and I fell out of our chairs on that one because it was so funny.
I absolutely love her. This is a great vehicle for her, and I hope that this, continues moving her career forward, because fuck yeah, I would love to see her in other stuff.
And not as like, some sort of like perfect professional, but exactly what she's doing there is like, hey, we have this some sort of show or competition or whatever, and we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. We kind of want to take the piss out of it. So, we're going to add Nicole Byer in there to make, to kind of break it up a little bit and not make it as serious, and, be funny and slapdash about it. And I think you could basically do that with anything. Like, if like, what's his name? The not Tim the Toolman Taylor, but the guy that he like always aspired to be, the guy that fixes up old houses.
Oh, Bob Vila.
Bob Vila. Like, if you had a show on Netflix that was Bob Vila and Nicole Byer going through house renovations, she'd be walking through. It's like, I got a sledgehammer.
I would watch that show too. I definitely would watch that show.
Oh my god.
Oh, at this point, Bob Vila's got to be 9,000 years old, though.
I'm sure he is, but I would show enough.
It would just be called This Old Host.
Right. But I would watch This Old House with Nicole Byer. That would be...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it would be tasteful, but it would be funny.
No, definitely. I mean, they might not get a lot done, but it would definitely be awesome. I could see, like, that sort of concept. I could see in sort of that Canadian, Canada's Worst Handyman sort of thing, where it's just like, you know, you're watching a couple of goofballs absolutely fuck up home renovations. I would see that show. That's a good show. That's a definite excellent platform for her.
Like, and the show probably won't make that much money because after they, you know, unless these idiots are renovating their own home, you know, they go to somebody else and they renovate their home. They're basically gonna have to buy the home after they're done with it. Like, pay them for the damages to their home. So I mean, it's really going to have to take off to even be in the black on that one, I think.
One of the things that we're liking about Nailed It is just the stagehand guy. I forget what the fuck his name is, but like, I hope that
Wes,
they're scripted.
I think
Wes, that's it. It's Wes.
Yeah.
I have to assume that all this shit with Wes, where he's like showing up late or forgetting to bring things on set.
Yeah, like the trophy wasn't out front or anything.
It's got to be scripted, but at the same time, it is as you said, charming. Where it's just like, where the hell's Wes? And
like
then,
he pops out from under the table.
Yeah.
There was one, it wasn't a major one. It wasn't like when they were bringing out. It might have been when they were bringing out like the stand mixer or something. But there was one that I could have sworn it was organic because like
it seemed like it, yeah.
Like he legitimately popped out. It's like, oh fuck, Jesus! I didn't know we were doing the thing.
It's just some guy in stage blacks with, you know, the headset mic and everything else. Like, he definitely looks like he's part of the backstage crew.
Yeah, he's just one of like the like the really attractive grips that, you know, doesn't really do a whole lot well, but he's kept around because he can, you know, he can tape something to something else and he's attractive. Like, yeah, and I get it. Like,
that's a good gig if
totally
you can
cool.
get it. Nobody's paying me to stand around and look pretty.
I'm not going to comment on why, but
all right. Well, with that, do you want to get to the deep dive?
Yeah, let's do this. All right, for the deep dive, going into a topic that I think most people in the office experience, and I will comment that we're not doing the topic that I wanted to do because Frank wouldn't let me because he was afraid.
Let's not start no shit, Derek. You know how these things happen.
Yeah, I talk shit to you and you edit somehow, like piece together me saying something bullshit. I get it.
Pretty much.
But today I want to talk about Thermostat Wars.
Which is timely, given that at least here in the South and in many other places, the weather is completely fucking insane. Like, I
mean, going 40 degrees in either direction overnight.
Yeah.
Like, it is going crazy. And, you know, with that, like, you have these just wild swings in outside temperature, and it, you know, it kicks on a lot of like automated systems to be like, oh shit, it's 20 degrees, turn on the heat. But the problem is that they don't always shut off. And, you know, if, you know, some people who prefer a warmer climate, like those bastards that love the tropical office environment, they're not going to turn it off. Like, they're going to let it go. And so, you know, they get there at 6:30 in the morning before everybody else, and they're just basking in the sauna that is the office. And by the time I get there at, you know, 8:30, 8:45, I mean, it is sweltering. And
yeah, I don't want to have swamp ass by 10:30 in the morning on a day when it's 38 degrees outside.
Like, on a perfect, or in some perfect situation, you wouldn't have swamp ass at all. But
Yes.
we're realists on this podcast. We understand there will be swamp ass.
Some days it's unavoidable. I mean, in the South, when it's like 100 degrees with 110% humidity, that's just walking from the car to the office.
I mean, the swamp ass starts as soon as you step out of the shower. Like, there is no escaping it. But at least I
never got dry that day. I took a shower and never got dry.
We had to burn the towel afterwards because it was not clean moisture that it wicked off of me. But no, you at least hope that wouldn't set in till like 1 or 2 p.m. when it hits like the warmest part of the day. But when it's like 8:45 and you're already peeling off your outer layer of clothes because it's so hot, that creates what we call a hostile work environment for some people.
I get hostile, that's for sure. I mean, like, this is why I have a desk fan. And it's not like a weak desk fan. Like, I have chosen my desk fan specifically for power.
And not even for silence, just purely for power.
Nope, I gotta turn that bastard off when people want to come have a conversation with me, because it is like standing next to a 747 during takeoff.
It's like, oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Like, I want a fan that when I turn it on, it browns out the floor. Like, that's the amount of air movement I need to stay comfortable, given all of these people who get cold so easily.
Like, if it isn't blowing papers off the desk from 30 paces, it's not doing its job.
And I mean, here's the thing. If you get cold, you can have a work blanket. I know people who have work blankets. It's
absolutely,
it's on the back of their chair, just folded up. They get cold, they pop out the blanket. I can't have a work Speedo. That's the kind of shit you get fired for.
That's exactly right, because you can always put on more layers and it's never an HR problem. If I start peeling off layers, we're only getting through like 1 or 2 layers before like the police are involved. Like, that's the problem. And it's much easier to get warm than it is to get cold or to get cool. And, there are a lot of people, and, you and I are both portly gentlemen. And I think that this is something that we may experience to a greater extent than some other people. But, those of us that are hot-natured, when we get hot, we get cranky.
But here's the thing that's important: my comfort.
I mean, I've always thought that my comfort was more important than everybody else's. But it's really all about compromise. Because if you have people that cannot decide on a temperature and decide not to come to any agreement on some middle ground, some DMZ or no man's land where they leave it and nobody's allowed to touch it one way or the other, then you have a problem.
Now, one of my favorite ones was when a friend of mine he's not even the kind of person that gets that hot, but just because it was an ongoing thing, he had gotten moved into the office that in that building just so happened to have the main climate control for like a third of the floor.
Oh, God.
And once he got control of it, because there was some slightly built person who had that before, and they kept it at, 97 degrees year round.
Okay.
Once he got in there, it was like, this is set to 65 and fuck all y'all, get a blanket. And I was a happy camper.
Nice. That is
I was
beautiful.
like, yes, the only other time I have been as comfortable, I literally got stuck in the server room that was in the process of being decommissioned. And so, like, there was maybe 2 racks of servers that had been, downsized from an entire room, like a gigantic room.
Yeah.
And it had been downsized to like two little racks of servers.
So you're getting all the cooling, all the airflow, and none of the heat from the servers.
Exactly. And it was like 63 degrees in that room all the time. And they were like, "Are you sure you don't, like, we could maybe get a desk in the hall?" And I'm like, Nah,
Fuck
I'm
that.
fine.
For our listeners that don't know, servers are generally kept in this big room that has the coolest shit ever as far as a cooling system, because it's kept very cold, and the air actually literally comes from the floor. Like, there are little holes all through the floor, and the air just blows up, and you can feel it. Like, if you're, a couple feet off the floor and you hold out your hand, you can actually feel the air coming up.
It's like being on a gigantic air hockey mat. Like,
right, exactly.
It's fucking beautiful.
And it is wonderful because for us portly fellows, I would love to go, I used to love having to go down to the server room to check on a server, or, talk to the guys in that department, because that meant that I got to go to the coolest room in the building, like second only to like the milk refrigerator. like maybe that was colder, but everything else was just, everything else in the whole complex was 70 degrees, 75 degrees, more likely 75 degrees because they don't like to pay for air conditioning as much. But yeah, then you go to the server room and it's a solid like 66, 67. It was splendid.
Yep, got the undercarriage all cool. Now
they did not like it when I showed up in a Marilyn Monroe dress.
And you just popped in. Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Hey, boys. It was also a bad choice on my part, very tasteless, to also go commando that day.
Yeah.
I did not plan ahead, but variety and spontaneity is a spice of life.
Yeah, and it's always fine to do the Bugs Bunny, like.
Yeah, although having them dock my pay for the PTSD counseling they had to do for the rest of the server room guys, I probably would make a different choice if I had to go back and do it again. But
now, throughout my career, I have actually avoided those sweet, swanky corner offices that in, media they tell you that everybody wants desperately.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. When you've got a corner office with, like, floor-to-ceiling glass windows...
Oh, God.
You're living inside a goddamn terrarium. Like,
That's exactly right. You are living in a greenhouse.
Yeah, I have never seen one of those that wasn't, like, just an uncomfortably hot temperature for a large period of the time. And I had been offered one of those offices at one point, and I was like, no, it would be a waste, because I know me, I would have, like, boards nailed over every fucking window in this thing, turning it into a cave. So please, give it to somebody else.
Where I've been offered, window seats, or, like you said, like offices that windows to the outside. And, if I didn't happen to get that office that had the window to the outside, they'd be apologizing. It's like, we're really sorry. We didn't have two offices that had windows to the outside, so I'm really sorry you're going to have to go to the inside. I'm like, nah, man, you should have given me the option before, because I would have chosen the dungeon straight away. Like, you can stick me in the goblin cave, and I will be perfectly happy. Because them goblins like it cool.
Is it damp? Is there dripping water? I like this. This is pretty homey.
I mean, my phone is waterproof. I can put something over my computer. I can work with this just fine. And and like I said, goblins like it a little cooler, I would believe. So, plus, the demeanor is, pretty similar. I mean, I worked around you, so I know I can work around like goblins and shit. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I've been trained.
You got to keep a torch lit, make sure that you don't get eaten by a grue. But other than that,
oh no, but it can get a little bit testy to kind of navigate the waters, because there are lots of folks that just tend to be more cold natured, and it doesn't necessarily. It doesn't have to be like particular body types. Like, it's not like all skinny people are, the harbingers of the fires of hell as far as temperature goes.
A lot of them are the same kind of people that want to speak to your manager, though. So,
but no. So with folks that tend to be a little bit more cold natured, I would suggest that. You can talk to your coworkers. Hopefully they are amicable and would be happy to compromise. In the case where they are not, what are your options? Obviously,
I mean, overthrowing the entire office to seize control of the thermostat is always an option.
and I would say in some cases that's probably too much collateral damage, but I think this is a very worthy cause to overthrow the king and claim your cool fiefdom.
I am cold miser. That's the only other the other thought I have is that we just have to do that duet.
But no, you'd have to find somebody else to do the duet because I would not want to be the heat miser.
Oh, you don't have to be heat miser. Heat miser is whoever that other person in the office is. Like, I'll teach them their
not
lines.
like you and me, but like you and the other person.
Oh yeah, no.
Are we some sort of like sing off competition? Like whoever sings it better gets to reign over the temperature gauge, or
if we're doing that, we might have to let you be cold miser because my singing voice leaves a little to be desired, which is to say, a singing voice.
Yeah, not exactly the most wonderful singing voice. Though I haven't, that brings up a point. I've never heard you sing.
There is a reason and a rationale for that. I still like you to some extent, and I don't want you to have to suffer needlessly.
Yeah, I feel that this is one part of our friendship that hasn't been reciprocated because, you know me, anytime somebody makes a reference that could be the part of a lyric of any song that's ever been created, I go off into, it becomes a karaoke bar in the middle of the meeting.
And you know that we would do that on purpose too, right? Like, that was a thing people were doing in meetings. They were like, let's toss out half a set of lyrics to a song and see if we can make Derek break into song.
I mean, I'm not mad at that. That's fine. That just means that you wanted the sweet tones of my voice to serenade you. And
the dulcet tones of Derek.
Yeah, I can't be mad at that. Although every time somebody says hello, I do have to fight the urge not to sing.
Is it me
hello,
you're looking for?
It's me you're looking for. Because that's a little bit too that happens all the time. That's not exactly special. It's just
everybody
I can't stop myself. But yeah, there are some more specific ones that it can get a little bit melodic in some of our meetings. I mean, you can also like you said before. There are people that have their work blankets or their work jackets and things like that. Those are very considerate people, and I applaud them and I respect them quite a bit because they understand that they have their body does not produce the chemical reactions to keep them warm. So they bring a jacket or bring a blanket or something, and they don't inflict their malady on other people. Unfortunately, we are not as nice, and we are super happy to take advantage of their niceness.
I mean, I am well, we know who I am. My reputation precedes me in most instances. This is a battle that is fought day to day in my car. There are blankets in my car that are not for me. They're for everyone else who gets into my car. Because it is well known that I tend to keep it, just slightly above meatpacking plant.
And Frank, here I was thinking that those blankets and that shovel were in case you had to dispose of a body really quickly. And I'm sure it doubles as
purpose. Dual purpose,
right,
baby.
Dual purpose. But
Alton Brown says no unitaskers.
Yeah, Alton Brown would be proud of that. Nothing that serves single purpose.
All right, want to take an audience question?
Let's do it. Hit me. Hi.
How do you talk to your boss about the fact that he regularly misses your scheduled meetings with no notice, i.e. sitting on a call waiting for 30 minutes for him to dial in? Sent in by Waiting in Westlake.
Yeah, I've had some folks like this in my office environments. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with like people that just send out like shotgun meeting invites. Like, okay, I know that I need to talk to these 10 people, so let me all schedule them for the the 30 minutes that I have free today, and the first one
Oh,
to answer my conference call will win the spot, and everybody else can apparently get fucked. Um,
I've
but
encountered those people before, and that's fucking terrible.
it is extremely disrespectful, um, because I know that upper management, like, yeah, maybe their time is a little bit more valuable than the common man, uh, but not by a huge margin. Like,
Until I'm upper management, no, it's not.
until you have a vested interest in that being the case, no, it is not. Um, have you had a bunch of people that, or have you had anybody in your past offices that were want to do this to you?
Uh, I've had people who not that they would show up late, but that they would just not show up.
Right.
That they would schedule a meeting and then they just wouldn't show up. And for me, like, you get one of those, and
Uh
then
huh.
after that, you can schedule the meeting, but if I know that you're a regular no-show, I will work to schedule the meeting in such a way that you will have to pass by and like fetch me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the working relationship I have with, and I've had that with multiple like supervisors and other people like that, where it's like, all right, I have now shown up to two meetings that you just weren't there for, so feel free to schedule something, but stop by my desk because I'm not going to be there otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. One of one of my previous coworker slash boss, he had the bad habit of scheduling like really important meetings, sometimes with clients. And so we'd be in the meeting room, 10 minutes in, we're sitting there,
Waiting
shooting
on
the
him.
breeze and just winging it, buying time. Because I mean, the clients are really close to us, so it's not like they thought that we were unprepared. They knew what the score was, but we were just sitting there, kind of just chilling, waiting for him to show up, and kind of making little references to him not being there. And I'll look out the fucking window, and he's getting in his car, and I'll shoot him an email, and it's like, I'm out of the office. I'm going to be, out of town, going to, somewhere important, like some important meeting. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like,
God damn
you
it.
could have at least, like, if you had to leave, that's fine. I understand that. But don't accept the meeting and have the client expect you to be there so they can talk to you, something that only you can decide. Like, that's disrespectful to everybody.
No,
Or at least schedule the meeting for one of the interior rooms that don't have windows.
so we can't see you get in the fucking car and drive off.
Can't see you like sneaking out the back and hopping in your car, peeling rubber out of the parking lot.
Was that Bob? Did he have golf clubs?
His meeting is obviously with the president then.
Oh, definitely. I've heard that some people try to engage the college rule. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, where it's like, if the professor doesn't show up for like X amount of minutes, then you can just leave.
Yeah, there's that one. I think that some people leverage.
Which I think in a work setting, that actually is, it's probably the unspoken rule. But I will say, from experience, that for college classes, maybe that used to be the rule, but that is no longer the case.
Nope, that's a quick way to find yourself failing a class. No, I mean, I've not yet run into a situation in which someone who was habitually late, if they showed up to the meeting and found no one there 8 minutes into the meeting, got upset.
Right.
Like,
I
if I
think that
worked with
if that's
somebody,
their shtick, yeah, if that's their shtick, they know, and so they're like, they're not going to be, they may not be apologetic about it, but at least they're not going to come, looking for heads to take off if you weren't there half an hour after they were supposed to be there.
Right. Yeah. Like if I worked with somebody who wanted to get upset, that they were 10 minutes late to the meeting and everybody wandered off and they're so fucking important that everyone obviously should have just stayed in the room or stayed on the line past 10 minutes. Like, nah, fuck you, man. Like I will go find another place of employment before that happens.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I also agree with like the everybody gets one freebie, but once is an accident and twice is always. So if it happens again, then that's just the way they roll, and that kind of colors like whatever amount of respect I had for them. Like it takes it down by a certain percentage, and then it can never go past that. Like that is a permanent degradation of respect for somebody, because like we talked about before, I used to be a manager of 30-ish people, and with those 30 people, like if I had a meeting with them, I showed up because I'm not going to ask anybody else to do something that I'm not willing to do, and that included showing up to a certain place at a certain time. If they can take time out of their work schedule that admittedly was pretty hectic, like there was a lot of work to do. If they can take their time to, get behind on their work and meet me, then damn sure I'm either going to be there or I'm going to let them know far ahead of time.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
Since you're no longer really a manager, is it that you care too much about other people's time and you respect them?
Are you saying that's why I'm not a manager anymore?
Maybe.
See,
you contain too much decency, Derek.
because I willingly chose to leave the role and go to another company because I didn't want to be a manager anymore. But I think that might be part of the impetus, is because to be a manager, you have to be a lot of things that I don't like to be. And, towards the end of my tenure as a manager, like I felt like my soul was crushed. Like I felt awful all the time.
But if your soul gets crushed enough, Derek, eventually it begins to harden into diamond, which is precious.
Are you trying to tell me how to become you?
Well, I mean, that was last episode, I believe.
All right. Yeah. So maybe I left the game because the game was trying to play me, and I wasn't into that. No, it was just that the soul crushing responsibility of being an empathetic person in a role that had to do with managing other people and listening to their problems was killing me. That's not funny, but it's true.
I guess it's not supposed to be funny. I'm sorry.
It's a little funny.
So how do we talk to the boss about that fact? That's a hard thing to do. I don't think you talk to the boss. I mean, I think you passive aggressive.
I definitely passive aggressive it, but if you were to talk to the boss, like what is the best case scenario? Like, I think that if your boss was somebody who would be like okay with that conversation, like they probably wouldn't be missing your meetings in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough indication that you really can't go talk to them. You have to be petty. Like you have to go full on petty mode and passive aggressive this shit.
Yeah, like if they cared enough about you to not regularly miss your meetings, then you could have a conversation with them. The fact that they're doing this means that you are just going to have to show up to meetings and then leave after 10 minutes. Do that for like 3 or 4 meetings. But then the joy is you just don't have to show up after that. If you know that they're habitually 10, 20, 30 minutes late, You just don't show up, and all you have to do is say, I waited for 10 minutes and you weren't there. I figured you'd stop by if you needed to talk to me.
See, I get that. I hear where you're coming from, but with my luck, or maybe it's just my anxiety showing, but if I decided not to go to the meeting that day, it's like, today's the day I'm taking a stand, and I'm not going to go to that meeting because I know he's going to be late. That would be the first time that he was on time and ready, and all of a sudden he comes charging down the hall wondering where the fuck I am. Like, that would be my luck. Like, that's just...
You're right. You're such a gentle creature, Derek, that is probably exactly what would happen.
All right, so what other petty things can you do to make this better? So the question is, are we looking to correct the behavior, or are we just wanting to seek some sort of like cosmic revenge, either directly or indirectly?
Well, most recently I was on a couple of conference calls that didn't get started right away because we were waiting for people, and I amused myself by creating my own hold music. I just started routing like,
okay.
Take on me, in to everyone else.
Nice.
It amused me. I had like a whole playlist of chill hold music tunes of the 80s.
You were playing, acting out your fantasy of being DJ Feastman for a while.
Exactly. DJ Feastman was in the house spinning some of those dope cassettes from the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, I'm not saying the market's out there for that, but I'm glad you get a little piece of your happiness on those bad meetings. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something petty. And see, here's the problem, is that I think that by and large, you are far more petty than I am.
This is true.
So if we're coming up with funny petty shit, I mean, at best, like, I could probably get away with like sending an email to the client and saying, oh, we had some, so-and-so had a scheduling conflict and couldn't make it, and we didn't find out until afterwards. Like, something that's not directly saying he done goofed and was disrespectful to you and me. But that, I think that the client would understand, like, after the second or third time, that that's what was happening. And I think that might be something that would correct the behavior, because, by and large, managers don't like to look bad. So
there's that.
That might correct the behavior.
My thought is, and not to show my hand again, you just feign technical difficulties once they actually do arrive to the meeting. Like, just don't take it off of mute.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a pretty valid point, is that, even when you don't want technical difficulty, your meetings are always plagued with technical difficulties. And if you're skillful about it, I think you can get away with a lot of shenanigans. But the problem is, you can't do like the old shitty landline version or like radio version where it's like, sorry, you're breaking. You have to go with the more modern avenues where it's like,
just hang up and say
like
that your computer crashed.
Yeah, say your computer crashed, or like you just talk and be like, hello, and they're like sitting there talking and you can clearly hear them, but you act like you don't. Like, I think that would be enough to make somebody so frustrating or so frustrated that they would just hang up. But, you got to be skillful about it.
Yeah, but I mean, we've all been in bad enough meetings that we can pantomime these things, or at least I would hope so.
Yeah, I think I'd be able to come up with a pretty convincing pantomime of bad connection, because, I've been in some offices that really did not have their infrastructure shit together. So, yeah, I could definitely. I've got some in the repertoire.
I mean, hell, at this point, we're in the process of like, Microsoft is retiring Skype. They're trying to get people to use this new Teams thing. You've got half a dozen different possible meeting rooms, clients, and technologies and all that stuff. Like, at this point, no one knows what it is. Like, from meeting to meeting, we might be using completely different software that is interacting with various computers in completely unpredictable ways. Like, now is ripe for just, like, wait until the boss shows up in the meeting, disconnect, send a message right after saying, sorry, my computer crashed, get on there, redial back into the meeting, just leave it on mute, say, I don't know what's wrong, I can't get my microphone to work.
Right.
I mean, he's wasted 30 minutes of your time. You might as well waste 30 minutes of his.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure that we can be directly helpful on how to correct the behavior, but these are all. This has been a presentation of some of the ways that you can make yourself feel victorious in the long run.
And isn't feeling victorious what really matters?
I think so. I mean, when I stole that gold medal from the track meet, I felt like I won, but the police and the organization that ran it did not feel that I'd won.
I still want the women's curling gold.
You're never going to let that go. The one time they were just handing out medals to whoever wanted one, and you weren't there.
I could have got it. I could have been a contender. Want to take an issue from the internet?
Let's do it.
What do we got? What do we
All
got?
right.
What do we got?
See, I didn't necessarily plan this, but this is also another boss-related one. How can I convince my boss that using Comic Sans font for all internal and external communication is a bad idea? He's asking for concrete, specific reasons, and I'm having trouble articulating any. It's kind of just a gut thing, and that is by Kobe Altman, or Cobb Yaltman.
Cobb Yaltman.
Cobb Yaltman.
Cobb Yaltman, we feel your pain.
Esquire.
I know there's probably several graphic designers out there that would just douse themselves in gasoline and set themselves on fire.
I think that's the only recourse for some people that feel so passionate about their craft. But this is not a good thing. I know that everybody knows that sometimes there are bosses that just get promoted to a point where they are no longer effective.
The Peter Principle.
They're so out of touch. The what?
Peter Principle.
What's it called again? Yeah. Just get promoted to the point of just complete inefficacy. And I'm not saying this is 100% evidence of that, but there are some people that are so out of touch that there's nothing you can do to tell them that Comic Sans is not the right font.
The unironic use of Comic Sans is a war crime at this point in history.
It clearly is written in the Geneva Convention.
Oh man, like that's just I don't. It's almost to the point that I don't know if I believe it, but I have to believe it because I know that the world is a sad enough place that this has to be true.
Right.
Like there's somebody out there who's just like, I really like Comic Sans. I think I should set it as my, font for all communique.
And it's one of those things that like it's hard to tell why somebody's using it, because if somebody looks at Comic Sans and it just makes them happy, like if they just look at it and they, all those bad business emails where they're delivering bad news, like they can think, I'm typing a delightful joke or something because that's what this font normally represents. Like if it makes them happy to use it, I know I personally, maybe you feel differently, I would feel a little bit bad at like kind of crushing their spirit.
I wouldn't. I mean, this person sounds like a remake of American Psycho.
He hands you his business card and you're like, my God, look at that. Look at that 12-point Comic Sans.
Like, this is the kind of person that, they just hand their business card over and it is the unfilmed season of Hannibal is what Mads Mikkelsen does to this person over the course of 12 episodes.
Oh my god. Okay, so I, I know we talked about the unironic use of Comic Sans being bad. I mean, I can't think of any reason, like, even if somebody was doing it to be funny, like writing some sort of passive aggressive letter on the refrigerator or on the snack machine or something, even then, like, if they're trying to make people extra mad, then I think that they have achieved their purpose. But I can't imagine any time when even ironically I would be okay with somebody using Comic Sans.
It's so bad at this point. I don't think one can ironically use Comic Sans. Like, I think we're to the point in history where it is the ironic use of Helvetica that is the double backflip Comic Sans-esque ironic font choice for passive-aggressive notes. Like, this is just so established fact. Like, gravitational theory, the Earth rotates around the sun and is a sphere, and you don't use Comic Sans. Which is to suggest, because I know that there's those flat Earth assholes out there.
I was hoping.
So all their fucking literature is probably written in Comic Sans.
Oh my god. Oh, I want to believe that. I want to believe that whatever holy text that the flat earthers have managed to produce is all written in Comic Sans.
Yes, the Flat Earth Bible is written completely in Comic Sans. This is now fact. This is truth. It is out in the world, and it cannot be retracted.
And, Comic Sans, like, produces something, like, chemically in the brain that is so much worse than any other font. Like, I would prefer somebody write a letter or write something and print it out and post it somewhere in, like, Wingdings or something. Like, I would prefer, like, cuneiform and, make me, like, look it up on the internet or something to figure out what this is. Like, even if it's something important and instructional, like, don't touch the coffee pot or it will explode. I would rather it be in cuneiform than in Comic Sans.
Like, Comic Sans was the proliferation of font to the masses. Like, it was originally based on lettering, comics from comic books. I think specifically the lettering from Watchmen, which is one of my favorite texts. But it was, it has become sort of a cultural byline for terrible choices because it got so overused because it was included in Windows, which was, the most massively installed computer operating system. And so then anybody that was looking for something that was quirky or, loose and funny and haha, check me out, was using Comic Sans to the point that it's so oversaturated everything that it's now painful. When in and of itself, it wasn't necessarily a terrible thing. It was based on comic books. Like, okay, sure. It's just once you have put that into the world so that every single, fucking bake sale project is going to have a 55-point Comic Sans note attached to it, it's just so overplayed.
But just like Pepe the Frog, just because it's a good thing you created does not mean that people use it for the power of good.
This is true. And now, it's the Flat Earthers and Nazis. Those are the only people that are using Comic Sans on the regular.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm adding this to my wish list. I want a copy of the Flat Earth Bible in Comic Sans, and maybe don't buy me a copy, but I want a picture of a copy of Mein Kampf written in Comic Sans.
This is...
I don't want it because I don't want anybody to get any money.
Nobody needs that, but I'm fairly certain that's just what I'm going to picture, at least from now on. All those people carrying around their little pocket Mein Kampfs written completely in Comic Sans.
See, and And I think maybe that was part of like the warning sign. Like as soon as it started getting translated into English and it was automatically written in Comic Sans, we should have known that something was wrong.
Indeed.
But nobody looked at the signs back in the 40s and 30s.
Yeah, they just unfortunately didn't know what it would be in the 40s when Comic Sans was secretly invented as one of the secret German occult weapons programs.
Oh, no. Oh, that means that it was very effective. Maybe not like completely ubiquitously because it's not actually like in any true weaponized form now, but you know, there are some people that have adopted it, and I guess through some sort of subversion, they are, you know, somehow it has rooted into their brain at their brain stem.
Well, you know, there's the whole a million monkeys with a million typewriters for a million years will eventually produce all the works of Shakespeare. I think this is that they had hoped to install Comic Sans on enough computers that eventually just mankind would collectively accidentally write the Necronomicon. Which must be written in Comic Sans to bring about the end times.
Obviously. You know, we talk about you know, these elder languages that, you know, nobody can read and nobody can speak and things like that. And really, it's not that they can't; it's just they refuse to because it's all written in Comic Sans. And until, you know, the recent times, until like the late '80s, early '90s, Microsoft hadn't given it a name yet.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But now we know.
That was what Lovecraft was referring to when he, you know, said things that man was not meant to know.
The Elder God speech, the reason that we can't understand it is because it's actually the audible version of Comic Sans.
Exactly.
That's why their names should never be spoken, because that would be another use of Comic Sans.
He who shall not be named. The unspeakable ones.
Oh. No, but I think in general, if somebody is habitually using Comic Sans and it's unironic, I'm not sure there's anything you can do to help them, because at this point, you know, they had to have avoided common sense for an extended period of time to think that Comic Sans was okay.
I think we have at this point categorically proven that they're a cultist and or a deep one in disguise.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I don't have anything funny to say about it, but
it's just like, yep, true.
That's pretty right.
All right, Derek, want to punch the clock?
Oh, I could think of nothing better. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer on air, send them to questions@WLIcast.com. They don't have to be work-related, and at this point, they're pretty much guaranteed to make it on the show. You can also visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/WLIcast, or on Twitter at WLImbalance, and use the hashtag WLIcast.
This has been the Work-Life Imbalance Podcast. I'm Frank Eastman.
And I'm Derek Lewis.
And with that, I think we're going to have to transfer you. Hey.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming about who we used to be.
Well done.
That's the other one that just pops into my head all the time. Look, man, this is my whole damn life. It is just me trying to restrain myself from turning shit into a fucking riff off from Pitch Perfect. Like that.